All right, 16 minutes past 5 p.m. on a lovely Monday afternoon. This is Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. My name is Ayo Konike. This is the Smooth Drive. And of course, at 5:15, we get into the marketplace and talk about the latest information coming out of the markets, what's going on in Nigeria and all around the world as well. And this evening, we're going to be talking about the agricultural sector. Now, this is something that comes up on a regular basis. It's really difficult not to have conversations about the agricultural sector because we know what's going on in terms of food inflation, and so on and so forth in the country. And we're talking about inflation and the CBN fertilizer donation to the Ministry of Agriculture. And joining me this evening is Gospel Obele. He's my special guest, the chief economist at Streetnomics Limited. Very good evening to you, Gospel. Great to have you once again on the marketplace.
Thank you very much for having me. I am really great to speak with you as always. Thank you.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure as always. We always just give us that breakdown. That's one of the reasons why I love having you on the show. And you listening to us wherever you are right now, you can be part of the conversation as always by sharing your thoughts on WhatsApp, any questions you might have, any thoughts that you'd love to share concerning this particular issue. You can come through on WhatsApp with your messages 0809 440 981 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join us on YouTube because we are streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. So what are you waiting for? Join the live stream. You can check out my winter fit right here in the studio. All right, Gospel, let's get into the groove. And before we got in right now, we're just having a back and forth over the inflation numbers and so on. And we haven't seen headline year-on-year inflation this high since 1996 when former General Abacha was in office. Now, 31.7%. How much higher can this go? Is there a ceiling or is it just going to keep on ballooning?
Well, I'm actually very surprised that we are surprised. Safe to say, because the dynamics of inflation in Nigeria, I've tried to restate many times, is the fact that you have lots of reinforcing elements, all right, that are making those numbers go up. So whilst increasing interest rates may have some impact, like we've seen in some countries, we've also seen that it doesn't have sufficient impact. Like I mentioned, the inflation we are dealing with is not a monetary type of inflation. It has some element of monetary, meaning that you have a lot of money in circulation and trying to mop up cash out of the circulation. So it has some element of it, but its entirety is more non-monetary than monetary, which also means that you also have exchange rate dynamics going into it. You have the Russian-Ukraine war geopolitical dynamics going into it. A poorly managed economy also going into these numbers, and the fact that we're heavily import dependent. That import dependent conversation has been there for over 2 decades. So part of what we're also going through right now is the fact that you're seeing a long history of fiscal and monetary, economic indiscipline, all right, that is playing out right now in the high cost of goods and services, as the case may be. So, is there a ceiling? There is really no ceiling. It'll keep going high until something is done at the number one structural level to bring it down, and number two, until something is done at the interventions level, to forcefully bring it down. And when I say interventions, I don't mean welfare. So welfare would be your cash transfer programs, your
palliatives,
palliatives. That's welfare. That's necessary. It's necessary for you to have welfare because inflation bites deeply at the core area of basic survival, which is food. All right. So welfare is key to sort of keep the environment relatively calm, all right? But in the mid to long term, welfare would not do the magic. Interventions will do the magic. So what major heavyweight decisions need to be taken to support key sectors that are driving, for instance, now, lots of the items that we actually import, some of them we already produce locally in raw materials. But then again, think of the fact that farm to market dynamics is a complete nightmare in terms of access to finance, access to market, logistics, and insecurity, and all those things that makes it difficult for yam in Benue to get to our tables in Lagos without stress. All right.
Yeah.
The fact that farm to market dynamics are still very difficult shows that we are not anywhere very close to dealing with our inflationary problem at all. In many cases, in many countries where they talk about interest rates a lot, they don't have this farm to market issue at the structural level in which we have them. So, which is why interest rates may bring down inflation. But even in the UK, you also got a recession as well, and a rising cost of living with inflation seeming like it's going down. So you still see that UK is in recession even with the downside inflation. So it's no longer a cast in stone in terms of best use of what instruments can we use to tame inflation. Interest rates are simply not enough.
Interest rates are simply not enough. I'm still talking about inflation, but talking about food inflation right now, which is something that is very, very, very key at this time. It's at 37.92%. We already have a state of emergency declared for food insecurity. Are things getting worse?
Well, I think the answer to that is very clear. If you go outside of the studio now and ask the average Nigerian, do you think things are really getting worse or getting better? We already know to what extent. 7 out of 10, and when I say 7 out of 10 because the last 3 will tell you by God's grace, things will get better. All right. So, and which is the first problem we have as a nation, relegating economic, fiscal, and social growth discipline to some unforeseen causes or to providence. So, yes, things are actually getting worse because you've seen that the reason why I say they're getting worse is that at the end of the day, it impacts on every Nigerian. The amount of money the average Nigerian spend on food every month is going high. The disposable incomes are shrinking. So if it doesn't have a severe impact on the pockets of consumers or the daily survival, we may say, okay, it's not as bad as it is, but we could juggle a bit and all that. But it's actually getting worse because the average Nigerian, even the elite folks are even feeling it, so people are really feeling it. And not because some sect of Nigerians can't afford it can't afford the price hike or can't afford basic survival at a higher price, but because of the fact that there's so much price instability in the system. It affects planning, it affects forecasting, it affects people's budgeting. This whole issue of financial literacy, budgeting, planning and all that is really, really at the mercy right now of so much uncertainty. Because, like they say, morning price is become afternoon price.
That is where we are right now. Before it was yesterday's price, is not today's price. Now it's this morning's price. It's not this afternoon's
exactly
price. That is where we are. Now, also we're both here. We're in the studio. We're talking about all these numbers going back and forth. Talking about food inflation at 37.92%, year-on-year inflation at 31.7%. We can throw these numbers about because we can, to a degree, we understand what this means and all that. But what does these figures mean for the average Nigerian out there who is a organizer or selling yam by the side of the road and so on and so forth? What do these numbers mean to them?
I mean, I think they already have an idea of what it means. They may not be able to tie it to 37% inflation and all of this jargon we use, but they already have an idea or they have a sense of what it means. What it means that the price of rice will keep going up. Why? Because inflation is not just from secondary school language, tomorrow chasing feel good thingy. You also have a situation where it can be cost driven, and the fact that this price is not today's price, morning price is not afternoon price, is also giving room for a lot of speculation in the conventional market space. So the fear of because for the retailer who's selling a bag of rice, if they buy the bag of rice 50,000 naira and they're selling for 75 or 84 something K, the fear of the fact that when they go back tomorrow, that supply may increase to 60,000 naira. That fear, not that it has actually increased, but that fear of that increase will lead to them further hiking the price of their current stock.
Just to hedge against whatever.
Just to be able to hedge. So the concept of hedging against risk is now very abnormal. Because it's very abnormal because it doesn't follow conventional principles. It doesn't follow an input and output dynamics. It is not a wait and see situation. It is act first, then to protect yourself, then we see, so the truth is prices of goods and services are literally going to go up. Businesses are literally going to struggle, especially those who are in inflationary exposed sectors like food and all those fashion. I was watching IG this morning and somebody said that she got a text message from one of her friends that this is a sixth business that is telling her that sixth fashion business that said they're going to close down. And this is still first quarter of the year. Wow. So, and that's actually very worrisome. So it's a very, very tough scenario we find ourselves in, and it's quite pathetic. In all fairness, I've been saying this for almost 3 to 4, 5 years now, but I guess nobody listens. So at the end of the day, we get to have it the hard way sometimes.
That is rather unfortunate, because I mean, you see a lot of things on TV, listen on radio, people talking about these sort of situations, and going down this path, this will happen, and so on and so forth. So you'd think that those who are in the position to do the right thing or do what's supposed to be done would take heed, but we are where we are right now. Okay, now Gospel, can you define the real rate of return for us?
Well, when you talk about real rate of return, I mean, just talking about returns that have factored in taxes and inflation primarily. So you realize that the whole inflationary dynamics, interest rates and all that, that return on whatever investment or the rate of that return has also been computed enough to be able to factor in inflationary dynamics. That's just basically. Any other thing outside that is what we term as nominal, which can be a little bit of a risk in the real market sense. So right now, people are now trying to, just like when you go to borrow money from the bank now, let's say you borrow it at 12% yesterday. If you come back tomorrow, it may be 13 to 14% because of two basic things. CBN is constantly shifting goalposts. Inflation is constantly increasing. So all of these cost of borrowing in terms of the rate of return or interest income for investors, are really dependent on factoring the fact that the economy is, having a roller coaster on inflation, increasing the overall increase in prices of goods and services.
All right. There's a message here on WhatsApp. This is from Amu, who says, please, how does the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics come up with the inflation figures? The inflation rate is about 756%. Please, let's be telling ourselves the truth. Okay, I mean, that is quite the embellishment there, but I understand what I really actually
I understand what he's saying as well.
It doesn't feel like it's 31.7. It feels like it's way more.
Yeah, of course, it's way more higher than that. In all honesty, and I've actually argued for this sometime in the past. Inflation in Nigeria is way higher than what it is or what is being reported now. Nigerian population is way much more than what's reported right now. For inflation, one of the major challenges with inflation in Nigeria, I mean, I'm an economist, but some technical people want to argue differently. And I don't think that there's some form of empathy in how they think about it, in all honesty. Why I'm saying this is because when you're trying to determine an inflation rate, there's what they call the basket of food items or the basket of items. So many times your inflation rate is only as accurate as the basket in that item. Or sorry,
items in the basket.
Yeah, items in the basket. It's only as accurate as the type or quality of items in the basket. So if you look at the Nigerian inflation basket, you still see a lot of things that, in as much as they are relevant, you still see things that you realize that a lot of things are not there. All right. So for instance, now many things that drive this inflation thingy or that ride on speculation, which further also impact on inflation, like mobile phones, gadgets, and all these things. You won't find them on the basket. You find there bread and tomatoes and all those things. So all those things are good as in terms of food items in the basket. You also need to be able to, because every 5 years it's expected that the National Statistical Agency always reviews the basket. So you review the items in the basket, to start with, and they probably review how you are computing those items. Very key. But in the last 10 years or almost 15 years, we've not had, a review of the inflationary baskets or the items in the basket, safe to say. So that's to tell us that we are still using old baseline basket items or items in the basket, safe to say, to to reach our inflationary number. So if even at old basket items, you still find out that we're at 31%. So imagine if that basket was reviewed
and updated.
What is going to look or updated? It's just like unemployment. When you say unemployment is at XYZ%, is it really at XYZ? I think it's way higher than that. Population is way higher than what it is. I don't think GDP in Nigeria is also correctly constructed. I mean, safe to say the Nigerian economy is actually bigger than what it is in terms of GDP construct, actually bigger than what it is. It's just that we've not rebased, close to accuracy enough. And there's also a thing about statistical methods. They are very, very conventional in their conceptualization. I don't want to go too technical. They are not as forward thinking. So take for instance now, the dynamics of food and inflation in Oyo State is even from Benue State, is even from Cross River State. So how do you measure up to ensure that you are accurate, taking into consideration the different landscape or the landscape differences in the 3 different states? All right. So why would you use the same thing OECD uses for other benchmark countries that their rates are different? So you want to be able to, review methodologies and statistical items to ensure that you're creating the right balance and you're close to accurate.
All right, good stuff. This is a very interesting conversation, which will continue on the other side of this quick break. Don't go anywhere because the marketplace right here on Smooth 92.1 will be back in a bit. Nigeria, we hail thee. Yeah, we're back in a minute. Since to get something outside.
All right.
Smooth 98.1, love music, love life, 35 minutes past 5 p.m. It's a lovely Monday evening. This is the Smooth Drive. My name is Economist, and this is the marketplace. We've been having a great conversation talking about inflation and the CBN fertilizer donation to the Ministry of Agriculture. We'll get into all that because I still have my very special guest with me in the person of Gospel Obele. He's the chief economist at Streetnomics Limited. And you can join in the conversation, as always, by sharing your thoughts on WhatsApp on the number 0809 440 981 0809 440 981. Any questions, any thoughts you might have about what we're talking about, come through and let us know what's on your mind. You can also join us on YouTube because we are streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, Gospel, let's get back into the groove of the conversation. Now, let's talk about um, what to expect from the next MPC meeting. I think it's next Monday or Tuesday or thereabouts. I mean, there was one in the month of February. So what should we expect from this one? I know in the last MPC meeting there was a raising of rates, even though I think we had a conversation beforehand talking about, oh, will the rates be raised and will they hold and so on. But raised for the umpteenth time. So what do you think we should be expecting from this next meeting coming up next week?
Thank you so much. I was laughing because in the last session we talked about a likely hike. That if they are nice enough, it will be a hold. But we saw how high weren't envisaging that the hike will really go
all the way up.
Yeah, all the way up. To be honest with you, in my own opinion, technically looking at what we should expect next week, I would think they should hold because a further hike would just be madness. I don't know if you get what I mean, because the first hike was really, really outrageously up there. Nobody saw that coming from 18 to 22.75. That's one of the almost over 400 basis point hike. That's one of the highest we've seen in recent times globally. All right, so going another 200 basis points, high again could really, really be seen as, very, very insensitive, and quite honestly, I don't think the central bank wants to be seen in that way. So what I'm likely envisaging is going to be a hold. That is what I am envisaging. But in realistic context and looking at the body language, the patterns of the central bank in terms of how it's been, engaging policies and all of that, we shouldn't be surprised if there is 100 basis or 0.5 basis hike this time. We shouldn't be surprised, but I would expect it should be a hold.
Okay, but Gospel, looking at how we're having all these hikes in the rate. I mean, at all the previous MPC meetings, there was always an increase in the rates, kept going up and up and up. And like you said earlier, talking about the inflationary numbers, that there's probably no ceiling to how high the inflationary numbers can go. Now let's play pretend here, or make believe, or hypothetical scenarios. What would happen if this rate keep getting hiked in consequent MPC meetings? What would be the outcome at the end of the day?
Well, the outcome is that the central bank will try to justify it. And because conventional economics says that that's the most sustainable way to tame down inflation. So like I said, I think we had a session sometime Q4 last year, and I mentioned here that this is going to end up being a vicious circle. It's going to end up being a vicious circle. And the reason I said that is because you raise rates, inflation go up, you raise it again thinking you can stem inflation goes up again, you keep raising just like that. And that's what has happened in this case. All right. There is no way inflation in Nigeria will come down from interest rates only. Interest rates could play a part, but it is not the most important integral part of the whole thing. All right. So you're doing an economy that is really, really deformed in its structures in many ways. All right. So one monetary instrument will not do the work. So what's going to happen is that the central bank will probably keep justifying the hike to bring down inflation that they're not bringing down. So thus they need to raise interest rates further in the near future. And that's what's going to happen. And for some very weird reasons, financial services stakeholders and many other people will just back them up for the sake of being more politically correct than dealing with the issue that we are faced with.
Okay, so looking at things from the point of view of, okay, we have the monetary side, we have the fiscal side. Now, would this be a justification from the monetary side that, okay, we are doing what it is that we feel is right, what we should be doing, or we're doing our own? It's now up to you to figure out how to solve things on the fiscal side. Is that where we are right now?
Well, I don't think we are there yet. I don't think we're there yet, because we haven't yet to come into terms with the level of damage that has been done to the economy. And we're also yet to come in terms of prioritizing what policies really need to go into mainstream, not because that information is not there or there are no experts who have the answers in Nigeria, but because I don't think the political will is strong enough to execute on that.
Interesting stuff. Okay, now let's do stay with the CBN here, because there's been some controversy around the Apex Bank and the intervention programs. And the CBN handed over 2.1 million bags of fertilizer worth over 100 billion naira to the Ministry of Agriculture last week. Now, over the weekend, the CBN released the a frequently asked questions document on the handover. What have you made of the whole matter?
Just need to be able to outline.
Sorry, can you take the question again?
Yeah, talking about the CBN and the intervention programs and the handing over of 2.1 million bags of fertilizer, which are worth over 100 billion naira to the Ministry of Agriculture last week. Now, over the weekend, the CBN released some frequently asked questions on that handover. Now, what have you made of the whole matter?
Well, I think that we're used to this option of having fertilizers being rolled out. This is not the first time. It happened under the tenure of Governor Emefiele, and we're not surprised that it's happening again. I mean, for some very weird reasons, we believe that this is the very structural solution that needs to go in. However, I realize that even if you gave the people's fertilizer, in fact, we've not even seen any publicly made available data to show that these are the beneficiaries of these fertilizers, and that this is what they've done, and that this is the outcome when it comes to food production wise in Nigeria. All right. And then how do you tie that up to this whole farm to market economics? That's a different conversation entirely. So it's maybe that's what I mean. I don't have the intelligence the central bank has, but top of mind, I would think more needs to be done to ensure that that solution is firmly weaved into the overall outcome of food security in Nigeria and all of that. Because, I mean, giving out fertilizers and all that, well, is a good plan, but I don't think it's sufficient in any way.
That's just like treating the symptoms, but not getting to the root of what's causing that particular problem. All right. So all that being said, Gospel, how can we bring down food prices in Nigeria? Because it is not beans, as they say, at all.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel bad about the situation, because I really wished I had a very accurate answer to give to you. The reason why I say so is because to bring down food prices in Nigeria, you have to deal with it from a root causal element. Otherwise, any solution will be very short-termist and may cause more problems in the near future. What I mean by that is, if you say you want to subsidize food further down, there is no money to even subsidize that thing called food in Nigeria. There's no money for the central bank, from the federal government to stand with. They're still dealing with a revenue crisis. Number two, we already have more than enough to feed the whole Nigeria. But the problem has been farm to market, like I mentioned, access to finance, access to this, access to that, encouraging more Nigerians to play in the value chain, in the agricultural value chain. The problem has also been that we've not industrialized enough. I mean, we are number one in the world with many things, tomatoes, pineapple, and all that, but we're not doing anything with those things. So, and if you now go for a short-term strategy to say, okay, create a support package for middlemen or wholesalers to bring down prices, how long would that, how is that scalable, and would that really solve the problem in the long term? Would this solution really bring down prices genuinely? So that would now leave us to going back to the basics of the program, which is fixing our industrialized industries, safe to say, and sort of fixing the insecurity problem and all that. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, this guy is just talking about this whole same thing. The truth is that Nigeria cannot move forward without dealing with those things. It's just what it is. If you don't fix insecurity, you don't fix transportation, you don't fix infrastructure and all that, we cannot bring down market prices. At best, they would cap at a level and may never go down.
That's like the proverbial elephant in the room. It's right there. I mean, you think that, oh, I can ignore, but it is right there staring at you, cross-legged, just waiting for you to come back and notice it at the end of the day. I'm going to round up with a message here from Aya from Amu, who says, please, I just checked the present interest rate and it's at 22.75% for an economy that is trying to grow. Giving fertilizers is not the problem when the farmers are scared of going to the farm. And that just ties into what you said, Gospel, about solving the problem of insecurity. One of the huge problems that we have out there that we need to solve and solve as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I've been talking to Gospel Obele, and he's the chief economist at Streetnomics Limited. Gospel, you're on social media, right? Where can we find you? Once again, for those who are not following you.
Oh, yeah, I am on social media. I'm LinkedIn, Gospel Obele, Instagram at Gospel Obele, X at Obele Obele, basically. Yeah.
Straightforward enough. I like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, and have a great evening.
You too. Bye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening and being a part of the marketplace. We do this every Monday at 5:15 p.m. where we're going to talk about the markets and, of course, bring you the latest information and business news as well. Stick around, keep listening, because the Smooth Drive on Smooth 98.1 with me, Ayo Kumikeke. Will continue.